Like in all quilting, there are many ways to do the same thing, and this is another way to do binding. For this kind of binding, you have to make sure that your backing on your quilt extends at least an inch all the way around the edge of the main quilt. The things that you're going to need first to do this are a rotary cutter and a long ruler. So the first thing I have to do is some trimming on this quilt. This is the most dangerous step because it's easy to get confused or to cut the back by mistake. So what I'm doing here is, this green is the backing, I'm folding it all the way under the quilt. I'm going to do this the full length, and it's very important that it's totally clear of the edge of the quilt, because otherwise when you do your cutting you'll just cut a split in the fabric. So I'm just doing this a piece at a time as I work around the quilt. And what I want to do here is trim the batting to the same size as the quilt and make sure the edge of the quilt is straight. So I'm just going to lay my ruler along there. I've already checked that my fabric underneath is out of the way, and I'm just going to make my first cut. It's very easy, but it's also easy to cut in the wrong place. When you've done that, you're going to move it along. Make sure this is all folded under. And repeat. Yes, when you've gone all the way along the edge of this one side of the quilt, that's when you're going to let this part fold out. Just going to push that up there where you can see. The best way to do this is one whole side at a time. So deal with one side and then turn it around and deal with the next side. Now this time you're going to put your ruler on here and you're going to measure, and I usually do an inch. So I'm cutting from the edge of my actual quilt and one inch out into the backing, so that when I've cut this there'll be an overlap of 1 inch of backing all around the edge of the quilt. Now I'm going to keep moving it along and go along all this one side. So do you see that I've got an inch there? This is the edge of the quilt and the batting, and here's 1 inch of backing overhang it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all the way around this quilt, and then I'll show you what the next step is. In many ways, this method of binding a quilt is easier and takes less practice than a lot of the other ways that I'm showing on this little series of videos. But it does have some drawbacks. One of the drawbacks is that you have to be really careful with your tension when you sew this. It is possible for it to stretch a little bit, and you have an edge that's a little bit wavy when you've finished. And so for that reason, I would say I would recommend it for smaller quilts rather than larger ones. The bigger the quilt, the more likely that is that problem is going to happen. So all the edges of my quilt are trimmed now and ready for the next step. So I think you can see that the result of this is going to be that it's going to get folded over onto the right side to form the binding. But we do want to make a mitered corner. So I'm just going to use my 45-degree angle. I have some spare fabric here because I wanted to give you a closer up picture of what I was doing, drawing across the corners of the fabric to make the mitered corner. So I've placed this along the 45-degree angle of my cutting board. I need to line it up so that the corner will be right on the line, and then I'm just going to take a ruler, line that up along the line, when I've got that in the position I want it, I'm just going to draw a line straight across there. And that gives me a good 45 degrees, and I know that it's all at the right angle for what I want to do. So all 4 of these corners are going to be treated the same way. Can you see that? The next thing you're going to do is fold the quilt back and make that corner. And then you're going to put a pin on that line. And at this point you want to look at the back and make sure that it's in the same position on the back. And now you're going to take this to the machine and you're going to sew about halfway down that line, from the fold to the center, and then stop. And you're going to treat the 4 corners the same way. So I'll finish pinning these and we'll go to the machine and sew them. I have all my 4 corners pinned like this, and the line is kind of hidden by the pin there, but so what I'm going to do is put it under my machine and just sew about halfway along. And I'm going to do the same thing to all 4 corners, but I'm just going to show you one because you'll know how to do it then. Alright, so that's sewn along there, and now I'm going to trim this corner off, and again I'm going to do about 1/4 of an inch, but at this corner here I'm going to go a little bit closer to cut down some bulk. I'm going to turn that through. Have a little poker here just to push that out and make it a little bit squarer. Okay, so now when I lay that down, I've already got a mitered corner there. I'm going to do that to all 4 corners, and then we're going to go to the ironing board and turn all these under and get it all pinned into place. I've come over to my ironing board here and I'm going to show you how to press this. I'm going to start with this corner, and as you can see it's mitered. I just need to turn the edges under. All the way along there here, these edges are going to fold once to the edge of the fabric and then over again to form the binding. You want to maintain that evenness into the corner there, and you've already got to start with the mitered corner being there. So that looks about right for this side of the corner, so I'm just going to press. So I'm going to press it here, and the most important thing here is you do want to press and not rub your iron, because as I said earlier, one of the things with doing this method, although in many ways it's easier, it is really easy to stretch your fabric out of shape. And so you want to try not to pull it at all. Keep it all nice and gentle as you're moving it around and tucking it in place. Let's get that tuck under there. And again, I'm going to put press my iron on there. So I've got that first corner started, and for this I'm just going to use these little clips, and I put one directly on the corner, one to hold that side till I get back to it, and I'll probably move this one down in just a little bit. I'm going to do one side at a time, corner to corner. When I get close to the corner at the other end, I'll stop, I'll deal with the corner and then join the 2 up. So again, just be careful, very delicate in your touch in doing this. Just move that one down. Probably blocking your sight with that. If you can see, I'm just going to clip it all the way around like that. So we're just going to sew all the way around the edge of this now. You've got it all pinned ready. So the most important things here again are to have a delicate touch. So you don't want to stretch this in any way as you're sewing it. I'm trying to support the weight on my knee a little bit as well as I do this. And you're going to sew quite close to the edge. So decide where you want to place your foot to get the stitch the distance you want. Okay, so I'm just going to start sewing here now. Now, again, you may need a walking foot on your machine to do this. Most machines do need a walking foot because of the thickness. This particular machine doesn't need it because of the pressure control that it has. It's one of the things I like the best about this machine, this Juki. So take your time, don't be white-knuckled about it. You know, just rest your hand on there, don't pull and stretch it through or anything. Just try to keep your fingers on to try and keep things in place. So can you see there, that's about the distance that I'm doing mine from the edge. And I'm just going to go all the way around. It's just straightforward, straight line sewing now for the whole quilt. It's what makes this very easy. Nothing special in the corner, just stop within the mitered seam that you can see, let that be your guide. Turn and your stitches will automatically start at the right place again when you restart sewing. So the binding's all done there, doesn't have wavy edges. Looks pretty good. I really like that green in it. I like the result. So that's a pretty easy way to do binding. Subscribe and I'll show you some more ways. Thanks.